In this video, I'm going to cover 8 ways that you can avoid getting your products sniped on Facebook Marketplace, okay? So let's get out of the way first and foremost. What is sniping and why do sellers like you or other sellers, if you're unfamiliar with what it is, why do they do it, right? So sniping essentially is, when you're going out and you're listing products on, in this case, Facebook Marketplace, but this really applies to, other places like eBay or Mercari is one that this happens on a lot. You don't really see it too much on Poshmark because it's, the way that your closet's organized doesn't necessarily show you a lot of past sales, although I guess you technically could. But you do see it a lot on Facebook Marketplace, which is what we're specifically talking about here, right? So what happens is instead of listing products, and just taking guesses on products that you think would work, right? It's smarter to go out into actual Facebook Marketplace and find other sellers and other proven products that are already selling, right? And there's many different ways to do that. I've covered in other videos specifically, how to snipe products and many different methods on how you can do it, right? But all you need to know, if you're unfamiliar with it, is there are other sellers out there that are going to potentially do product research and take your best selling products from you, list them, and potentially undercut you, which obviously is going to steal your sales, okay? And, that's a reason that a lot of your best sellers might, come to a screeching halt, or you might not sell as much, okay? So that's what sniping is, and that's why other sellers do it. Now, there's 8 ways that I've outlined here that we're going to talk about that you can kind of not 100%, prevent your best-selling items from getting sniped, but basically kind of negate it from happening as much, if that makes sense, all right? So the first one is to use obscure suppliers, all right? I can't tell you how many times I've gone through sniping on other, Facebook shops or Facebook Marketplace sellers, and they literally use 3, like without question, it's usually 3 suppliers. First and foremost, it's almost always Amazon. If it's not Amazon, it's almost always Walmart. If it's not Walmart, you see a lot of Home Depot, right? And then every once in a while, you'll see a seller that does do a little bit of eBay, but usually it's one of those, or maybe like 1 or 2, right? So if you snipe somebody and they're always listing Amazon, chances are the majority of their items are going to come from Amazon. And that makes it really, really easy to go find the rest of their items once you identify their supplier, right? Every once in a while, you'll see somebody that mixes and matches a bunch of them, but it doesn't happen frequently, right? And so one of the best ways that you can prevent your items from getting sniped or taken from you is use other obscure suppliers, right? If you're using something like ZDrop, and ZDrop's a software that I recommend, I don't even know honestly how many right now. So there's upwards of 60, maybe almost 70 suppliers on ZDrop currently that software will pull from. Don't use Amazon, Walmart, Home Depot, or eBay, right? And if you do use them, because they're great suppliers, I still list from them, from time to time myself, right? Especially if I find somebody else's product and I'm sniping it, and then that product's from Amazon or eBay or Walmart or Home Depot or wherever, then I'm obviously listing it from there, right? Unless I can find a better price on that product somewhere else. But that's usually the only times I'll list from them specifically, right? And so if you go to any of these other suppliers and utilize them, it's not going to prevent people from sniping you, but it's really gonna, kind of negate that from happening a lot of times, because A, the other sellers will struggle to find those products a little bit more, and B, even if they do find those products, they won't be as likely to list from them because Amazon, Walmart, all those other ones are so easy to list from. You can get tax exempt super quickly and super easily, and so those are advantages that other sellers have, but you can play off those biases by listing somewhere else and other obscure suppliers, okay? I'm not saying don't use those other ones that, are the bread and butter, but I'm just saying start to experiment with other stores. It's going to help you find other better products that nobody else is really listing, and on top of that, it's going to prevent your best products from being sniped, okay? So moving on to number 2, if you're using an easy supplier, like the ones that I talked about, Amazon's, your Walmart's, your Home Depot's, your eBay's, change your title. It's really simple, okay? Because one of the easiest ways to snipe products when you find another seller or another shop is to just search the title, because most people don't change the title. It's super lazy. I understand it. You get in this thing because I used to list daily, so I get it. I no longer really list. I list occasionally when I have some time, but I have VAs that list for me. And so what I used to do when I would list, close to 100 or 150 products a day, you get lazy and you get used to the software doing all the work for you, and you rarely change the titles. Change the titles, it's gonna protect your best products from being sniped. Now you don't need to change it too much, because then you might struggle to find it in the search bar in your software, whether you're using ZDrop or FBM Fox or anything like that. But if you change it just slightly, right, and maybe you move some words around, then when somebody goes to search and reverse engineer that title, they're gonna struggle to find where you sourced it from, and they might not find it, or it might, take them a lot longer, and they'll kind of give up on it, essentially, is what I'm trying to say, right? And then you can still know in your mind, like, okay, you changed some of the words on a lot of your titles, but you don't need to search the entire title to find your actual product. Instead, you can just search like a few keywords and find it that way, okay? So change your titles. It will help you protect your products, okay? The next one is, if you're using an easy supplier again, don't just use the #1 stock image. So for example, let's use Amazon, right? For example, let's use this parrot remote, which is a teleprompter remote. Let's say that like the picture in the very first picture on Amazon is somebody like holding up the remote like this, right? That's the picture, right? And then you have other pictures that like go out in the listing. Don't use the first picture, okay? Because when somebody reverse engineers and tries to snipe your product, and they're looking for that actual product listing, whether it's on Amazon or any other place, they're looking for that image, right? So change the image, okay? And that's an easy way that you can protect your products from being sniped on Facebook. The next one is don't post in Facebook groups. I've talked about this so many other times, but I can't tell you how many people I've sniped just in Facebook groups alone, even if, so like this is another little caveat, this is another little bonus for you. I found that it's a lot easier to snipe shops, at least recently. You can definitely snipe personal profiles as well, don't get me wrong, but it's a lot easier to snipe shops because they give you like all the data, all the different nuances, and you can scroll through their products super easily, whereas on a personal profile, it's a little bit kind of like wonky in the way that you're able to sort through their products and see, so it's a lot easier that way. But so if somebody's posting in a Facebook group about their sales, or even if they're just in a Facebook group and they're constantly engaging and commenting, like there's nothing wrong with that necessarily, right? But it just makes you a potential target. It lets other people know that you are a drop shipper. And then what I could do if I was trying to reverse engineer it is I could go find your profile, which is not very, very hard, or go find you on Marketplace, which is not very, very hard. Or what I've been doing lately is like a lot of people will talk a big game about how they're crushing it in shops, right? And so what I've been doing lately that's been really easy is I'll go find that person's actual profile and I'll look at their likes, because generally speaking, most people like their actual brand that they've created to shop around, right? So for example, like let's say they named, this is a random example, but let's say they named like their shop like 0 products, right? Well, their personal profile, not always, but a lot of times happens to, like when I go look at it, happens to like a product page that's called 0 products that has like 10 likes and a few reviews and like hundreds of products, and it's super obvious that that's their shop where they're drop shipping from. And you can look at the products and you can find it and reverse engineer. So the whole reason I'm saying that is it's not a bad thing to post in Facebook groups, obviously. Like Facebook groups are a great place to go kind of find other like-minded people and stuff like that. But if you're doing that, first and foremost, don't like your Facebook shop, because that's obvious, okay? And then it's easy for someone else to find that. And number 2, you don't necessarily want to be posting and bragging about how you're doing a lot of sales unless you're 100% sure there's no like paper trail back to your shop or to your best-selling products, all right? So, it's just a little tip. Hopefully you keep that in mind, all right? The next one is to use suppliers that don't integrate with software. So one of the things that I said is use obscure suppliers, and we've talked about how ZDrop has like, 60 or 70 suppliers on their website that it will literally copy like super quickly with. Well, the next one is to use suppliers that don't integrate with any software, right? So that means no ZDrop, that means no FBM Fox. There's a few other ones out there, but if you go where others are unwilling to go, then chances are nobody else will be finding those products. Nobody else will be drop shipping those products. So first and foremost, you won't have any competition on those products. So you won't have people constantly undercutting you. So if you do find a good selling product on those obscure websites, then it's gonna be a longer kind of runway essentially that you get to sell that product profitably, because chances are nobody else is gonna be listing that product, number 1. And number 2, on top of that, is you have exclusivity exclusivity on that, because yes, it might take a little bit more time, but nobody else is going to be competing with you. And also, if somebody goes to snipe you, they're not going to be able to find that product. And if they do find that product, and this has happened to me in the past, this is why I'm saying this, is like if I find somebody's listing from like a random website, I'm much less likely to list from that random website because I can't copy all the pictures, and it adds an extra step, right? It adds more friction to me posting that listing myself, okay? And so you can do the same thing. I've been testing this out recently. I haven't had too many products that have like really hit, but I do know the few products that have hit from these random websites. Chances are like nobody else is using software on those websites. I'm not using software on those websites. So like nobody else is going to snipe that product, and nobody's really competing with me on that product, okay? It's a really good long-term strategy. Again, you're not going to see like a super, efficient spike because you can't copy products super fast, but test it, play around with it. It's a good long-term strategy to protect your best-selling products, okay? And another thing that is like, I'm not saying like build your entire state, like build it, build your entire store this way. I'm not saying that, but you do want to play around and test some other, random websites, because you can find some really great suppliers with cheap prices that, even wholesale sites and stuff like that. I'm not saying you need to go that route, but like if you just find like a random site that doesn't have software with good prices and great products, you have exclusivity on those products, and that is a massive advantage on Facebook Marketplace or any of these sites realistically, not counting Amazon, because nobody else everybody is competing over here in the Amazon, Walmart, eBay pool, and you have like this massive blue ocean that you can not compete, but list products from, all right? So I'm talking in circles here. I hope that I got my point across here. I know exactly what I'm trying to say. Hopefully I articulated it well enough, all right? The next one is to use a Facebook shop. Now, don't get me wrong, Facebook shops can be sniped as well, but the key here is like, it's gonna be a lot tougher for somebody to find your Facebook shop if you don't like it than it will be for somebody to find your personal profile, okay? And typically speaking, there's so many other reasons why you wanna open a shop, not just to protect your best-selling products. I still use them both. They're both still great, but I'm definitely moving towards shops more specifically, but I know there is that issue currently with like a lot of other people where their marketplaces were shut down on their shops, and that actually did happen to me on one of my shops. So like totally get it. If that's you, normal marketplace, at least for the time being, is definitely still a great option, and I'm still crushing it, especially now here in December, so you can as well, all right? And finally, the last one is to use review images. Now, this is mainly for the purpose of avoiding getting sniped. I personally don't think that it makes the listing look good when you use a review image, right? So like, I think it looks a lot better when you use like normal images that are on the listing. What I see a lot of people doing is they'll use all those images on the listing, and then they'll find a random review image and put that as the front one. Yes, this can help protect your best-selling products from getting sniped, but I don't think it's a good, strategy, because I think that it's going to make the listing look a lot worse than if it was like a new listing with like better product images, because the image is going to be the number one thing that sells the listing, right? And so I would argue that like you can certainly still get sales on product review images. Don't get me wrong. People do it all the time. But I would argue that those listings and those products are succeeding in spite of the review image, not because of it, okay? So keep that in mind. If you do find a good review image and it's like of the actual new product that looks good and it's well presented, by all means use that. But I've been seeing a lot, because I've been testing out different ways to snipe, so I've been sniping a lot of people. I've been seeing a lot of people use review images that look absolutely shitty, and then it just like kind of makes me think like, why are they using this shitty image? Is it just to avoid, people from sniping them? Probably, but I would say that like that's not necessarily the best strategy, but only if you can find one that looks good, looks new, conveys the product and all the features well, then use that, okay? So those are 8 ways to avoid your best-selling products on Facebook Marketplace from getting sniped, all right?